automatically register her for her to vote, although, you know, to make sure she was a voter, but I was like, this needs to be done. And I didn't really, well, I was a little slow on getting on it. So, but we did get her ultimately registered to vote. But there are 4 areas of concern with respect to preserving the rights of individuals with developmental disabilities or mental disabilities regarding voting. And this is from that Vote It's Your Right guide that I have limited numbers of copies of. Voter competence requirements that are imposed by state law or election officials or service providers, the state photo ID laws, which are becoming more and more popular in individual states, you know, having that rule and for voting, voter challenges, and providing help to voters with disabilities. Yes, ma'am. Where's my phone? Voter competence requirements. Sorry, I'm going here. In nearly every single state, only a court is the organization that can determine whether someone is competent to vote or not. It has to be adjudicated, and that everyone has to have access to due process, so you have to have your day in court before your voting rights can be taken away. Staff such as staff members who work with individuals who have developmental disabilities cannot keep those individuals from voting. That includes people who work for the home health agencies and group homes and hospitals and nursing homes or any kind of, you know, service providers and facilities. Those people do not get to decide whether an individual with a disability gets to vote, and it's actually, they cannot decide whether they're competent. That's not their, they don't get to. And the same goes for poll workers and election officials. They cannot decide to stop a person with a developmental disability or other disability from voting because that's not their job either. They're not a judge. So in the past, individuals with disabilities have been denied the right to vote in different states. And there are several different court cases that are in some of the handouts that I gave you that talk about specifics. But the courts have found that in the different cases that there were different violations, but basically it was that they had the right to vote and you couldn't stop them unless they appeared before a judge, you know, when the judge determined whether or not you were competent. And it's illegal to keep the person with a developmental disability from voting unless the decision to deny them to vote, their right to vote was determined by a court. Let's see. Guardianship. This was something that concerned me. Amelia is her own guardian, my daughter, and that was one of the things I was concerned about regarding guardianship and whether we should seek that, because I was concerned that she would lose her right to vote. I know now that that's not necessarily the case in Kentucky because Kentucky addresses it head on. However, in some states, they do not address it head on. In some states, it may not even be discussed at the guardianship hearing. And so the people who are becoming the guardians may not even know that the individual lost their right to vote because it was not directly addressed during the guardianship proceeding. So
it goes with guardianship when you...
It varies from state to state as to how they deal with it. In this state, in Kentucky, they deal with it directly.
Right. But in most states, it's one of the questions the judge has to ask, whether they give permission or not. The judge has to tell you that this is a part of guardianship, that this person is going to lose their right to vote. But that's not the law. That's not the federal law. They need to have a conversation about it. Then you can go back for another interview with the judge even after guardianship has been announced.
Yes, you can. And the thing, what some of the material that I was reading was discussing, which I was kind of surprised, that like she said, they'll say to you, you may lose your right to vote. And that would be it. As not, does this person want to vote? Do you think this person has the capacity to vote? Do they understand blah, blah, blah? you may have a guardianship proceeding in another state that never has that conversation about, does this person want to vote, or do you think this person could vote? So it's important that if you're at a guardianship hearing, that the individual with the disability ask the judge, you know, if they want to vote, not to terminate their right to vote.
When you say they deal with it directly in Kentucky, that's what you're talking about?
It's one of the questions they ask immediately.
They ask immediately.
Yeah.
And then the person that is guardianship is being sought for has to, is the one that's.
No, not necessarily. The people who, persons who are seeking the guardianship could say, no, this is not a part of what we want for guardianship. Or the person who is going to be the guardian can say, I want to keep my right to vote.
Right. And now, if that happens, if you're at a guardianship hearing and the person has an interest in voting, you should probably be prepared to, you might want to prepare the individual with the disability that the judge might ask them some questions. Like, I don't know, some basic questions regarding citizenship and voting, I think, kinds of questions, so.
And Wendy, do you maybe want to briefly let everybody know what it means to seek guardianship for an individual? Briefly, just briefly.
Why Hazel do that? Well, I mean, I could tell you what I think, but I'm sure Hazel has a better knowledge.
Let you speak, you're the speaker tonight.
So, okay, if
Just in
a
brief. Nobody needs
person,
to know it in
if a
depth.
person has a difficulty caring for themselves with respect to managing their own money, getting their own housing, making sure they're safe from harm, that they have groceries and transportation, if you think on a day-to-day basis.
And
that
their
that-
health care.
Yes, and their health care, and their legal stuff too.
Yeah.
Their legal decisions. If you think that that person might not be able to care for themselves in that way, then a caring person, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a family member, can seek guardianship. And then you go before the court and you say, you know, this is why. I'm sure you actually have a trial, right?
Yeah.
An actual trial.
That really, I mean,
Well, I mean,
doesn't
but-
look like a trial. You go to.
There are people present.
Yeah, there are people, there's a jury, oh
Uh-huh.
yes, there's a jury, and there are people in the courtroom, and everybody who's seeking guardianship is a big block of people at the same time. And then individually, the judge will call you up and ask, do you seek guardianship, do you agree to these things that you will take care, do you agree to, every other year to reiterate to the judge and the jury that you are covering these responsibilities that you have as a guardian. They list all the responsibilities. They give you a paper that lists the responsibilities that you have as a guardian, and you say yes, yes, yes.
And you have to have supporting
Sign the
documentation.
paperwork.
You have to have supporting documentation from mental health professionals, right, of some kind.
Yes, you,
That the
what we
person
took
has the
for our
disability.
son was his last disability evaluation. That's it.
From the school system? Or
No, we got private
No, healthcare.
evaluation.
So, however, there are alternatives to guardianship, and it's really an individual family choice and, you know, person-centered choice. You do not have to necessarily seek guardianship of your loved one with a disability once they become 18. That's completely, you know, up to you. In our situation, what we decided to do, there are a couple different steps. There's guardianship, there's conservatorship, I believe, which is where you have someone help keep track of your finances primarily.
And they have power of attorney and they can manage your finances only, but all the other decisions are
Right.
consultative decisions that you make with them.
And then another option that some people do, which is what we did, is power of attorney, a durable, Amelia, we went to, well, we asked her if she was willing to, and went to an attorney, and then she signed documents so that we would have power of attorney to help her with decision-making, like medical, financial, educational, I guess financial covers property.
Right.
But the durable medical power of attorney, so I'm the power of attorney for her, and my husband's the second. And the reason we did it that way was because I was concerned about taking Amelia's, I didn't want to take any of her rights away from her, even though she needs a lot of help. And no, she probably can't live by herself at this point, you know, but I just thought that I wanted to give her as much power for herself as we could. And at some point, maybe we will have to seek guardianship, I think, but not today.
One of the reasons we sought guardianship is because with a conservatorship, somebody else could come along and say to your adult child, we would make better guardians or conservators than your parents. And
That's true.
their decision making may not be.
Right, and she can revoke
Yeah.
her permission for me to have power of attorney at any time, like if she gets mad at me. We don't have that, I don't have a fear that Amelia would do that, but I could see where some families, where if a person would get angry at their parent or whomever, that they would say, no, you're not helping me anymore, and that's it. So that is a concern, and then also the, like I always say, Amelia's, of course, she's not an arm's length away from me today at the moment. But Amelia in general is, I can reach out and, you know where she is to find her, although I don't know where she is today. She's out in the community with her community support worker. I don't know where they are. They're off doing whatever she wanted to do. So, but later in the day I will see her. But another concern is if a person does not, if you're not under, if a person might have difficulty with making decisions and need a guardian, you have to be careful that if they signed a contract, they would be stuck with it. Whatever, like if they went out and bought a car, for example, or a tractor, or a house. That Amelia could go and buy a house, but I don't think she'd get a loan, so I'm not worried about that.
I have a couple of questions.
Oh,
Do you have to
sorry.
go back to court every year and a half?
No, yeah, the court sends you the paperwork every other year, and you've got to fill it out to say you're still doing what you promised to do and sign it up,
And the,
especially the financial part.
and the person, the son has to sign too, both you sign?
No,
or she?
no.
And what's the purpose of the jury? Is the jury there to decide, or is it mainly just the judge that's deciding this one?
No,
It's just the judge. The jury is there in case there's a, debate or an argument or whatever.
Concern raised
Yeah.
or something.
Karen Purge said that Kentucky is like one of the, tell me if I'm saying this wrong,
I think it's true.
But we're one of the last states that require a judge and a jury to make that. Other states don't have as formal a process, is that something?
Look, he goes, I don't know what you're talking
Don't know
about.
outside of Kentucky. I don't know.
That's what Karen, when we went to talk to her about a special needs trust, that's one of her comments, that she said Kentucky's got a very, not, I don't know, old
But the
fashioned.
jury does nothing. They just sat there and listened to everybody's stuff.
So they didn't have to sign off.
No, not where we saw.
But like we said,
So
must
it's
be
like,
some
it's like
procedural.
family court and everybody who seeks guardianship that day comes through.
Yeah, but they don't all talk at the same time, or it's on a blanket, you can go ahead and do this individually.
If you
go
want
on.
guardianship, raise your hand.
I know each person, but,
Yeah.
and so how long did it take for just in general, how long does each person?
10 minutes to wait on the judge to get there, 20 minutes for the discussion, and 5 minutes to get out of there and go and back and sign the
Well,
paperwork.
that's the fastest court proceeding ever.
So the judge wasn't in the courtroom when you came up?
No, you had to come in his robes and through the door and get everybody to, you can't miss on the pomp and the ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, and so that brings us to this part, which is, what if you have guardianship established and you lost your right to vote? And I don't have as many copies of these, I apologize, because I kind of guessed that there wouldn't be as many people who would need this information.
Do you want the next slide?
Well, you can sit there for a second.
Okay.
This is the, sorry, you'll have to fight her for it.
It's all right. It's all right.
Or wait, I have my original, you can have that down here.
No, you'll send us all the,
I've got the links are actually
links
in
to
here.
Did
the,
they allow you to help Amelia when you did your voting? I saw your pictures and that.
Yeah, I get to that momentarily.
Okay.
If you have lost your right to vote, you can ask to have your voting rights reinstated. So, and that's what this handout that I have is about, to help for people who have lost their right to vote, but they can go back to court and ask to have their rights reinstated. And I'm sure it's kind of like guardianship court, I'm sure. So, I'm sorry I don't know what year the Voting Rights Act was passed, because I was hurrying. Normally I would like to put what year that was through, but do you know? How come you don't know? He's an attorney, that's why. I don't have to know this stuff.
It's not that important.
I'm sure they can look it up on their iPhone.
Yes. Voting Rights Act, and this is from It's Your Right. The Voting Rights Act governs federal election procedures, basically saying that that no, I'm tired. No person acting under the color of law shall determine whether someone is qualified to vote in an election, that they can't apply different standards and procedures to individuals with disabilities than what they would apply to any other person. So, for example, if there is a test to determine whether someone is qualified to vote, they have to give the same kind of means test to every voter.
1965.
Thank you. Let me type that in. 1965. So they can't say, oh, you have a developmental disability. Well, we're going to give you, you know, a citizenship test right here before we decide to let you vote. They cannot do that unless they give that citizenship test to everyone. And I think many citizens would probably, the general public would fail it these days. Have you ever watched Jaywalking on the Tonight Show, where they talk to people on the street and they ask them like current general knowledge questions about elected officials?
Like who the vice president is.
And they don't know who the vice president is. So voter qualification standards such as competency tests that single out individuals or classes of individuals and to give them different treatment are a violation of the Voting Rights Act. It also prohibits them from states from using literacy tests, so you do not have to be able to read in order to be allowed to vote. And let's see, unless everybody has a reading test before they're given the right to vote. And then that defines what a reading test is. Let's see. So you don't have to pass a competency test unless everybody else has to pass the competency test. Let's see. Now, what if you are told you cannot vote? So next slide, ma'am. Thank you. If you are told, if you are a person with a disability and you go to vote, or if you're accompanying a person with a disability to go to vote, and there's the person at the poll stops you and says, I don't think you're supposed to be voting, you know, then you can say that I would like a provisional ballot, and then you go ahead and vote, and then later on, they'll determine whether you're a qualified voter, and then vote. Well, if you're a qualified voter, your vote will count. If you are not.
So if you're not registered to vote?
You should be registered to vote. You can't use a provisional ballot, but if you are, for example, if you go and then someone at the polls gives you a hard time and tries to claim that you should not be voting, then you can just say, I want to vote anyway, and I want a provisional ballot, and then you go ahead and get your chance while you're there.
What's a provisional ballot? Is that like a paper ballot?
I'm sure it's a piece of paper, to my guess.
Yeah.
And you turn it into them, and then if they determine you're okay, then they go on and
Right.
count.
Well, they don't, because they
They
have
would
to
have to
pass
go
it
to
on to
their
the next week. There's the
supervisor.
election committee or whatever they call
Like
They
the
pass
clerks,
it on,
probably.
Yes.
so it's maybe counted a week later.
Right, yeah, so next slide on that. Now, okay, help. This is what you were asking me about. If you have a disability, you can get help at the polls. And the person with the disability, this is what I didn't know. When we took, initially, this is one of the things
I didn't
that
know
I
this
was
either.
worried about with Amelia, which I will pass you my pictures around now of my Amelia. This is my daughter Amelia, voting last year. I didn't know, so the first time that I helped her register to vote, and the first time that she voted, I had her vote absentee ballot, which you can, if you have a disability that would make it difficult for you to vote at the polling place, you can ask for, can I show it to you? You can ask for an absentee ballot, and then you can do it at home, which actually, see, look, that's just like what you print off the internet. I printed this off the internet. See in here. Yeah. So, for example, if you want to see the ballot to see who in your neighborhood, you know, when you go to the county clerk's office online, it'll say, what's your name, what's your social security number, and what's your zip code or something, I think it asks me. And then it'll show you the ballot for your neighborhood. And then you can print that off for your own you know, making your own decisions before you get in there, but also the absentee ballot is the same. But yeah, there's more of it, I will put it back.
So you can go to the county clerk's site right now and print that out, because I noticed that, I know they usually give those out on the polling day, but
You
that
can,
would be nice to kind of prep somebody ahead of time.
for sure, for sure. Also helps those of us, sometimes when you don't know who all the people running are, you're like, who are these people? You know? So, which, feel free to pass that around the room if you want to look at the current, that's for my
Who
neighborhood.
are the people?
That's in 40514 neighborhoods.
Who is the vice president?
I don't
And
know.
so, Wendy, they did let you help.
Yes, so what I did with Amelia initially when she voted absentee ballot, and I was so proud, you know. I was like, Amelia voted, yeah. And then, because I'm a person who, I love voting. This is like, that may sound stupid and geeky, but I love voting. I love being a citizen and going and telling people what I think. And, well, so, and I have voted, I only missed one primary election, maybe twice, I'm sorry, since I was 18. I vote, every time there's a chance to vote, I vote. So, now I may not vote for every race because I'm annoyed by some of these races that I think shouldn't exist anymore. Yeah, some of the ones that are constitutional, things, constitutional positions that our state has that are odd, that don't really do anything, like the railroad commissioner or something. I don't know if that person does or doesn't do anything,
Be
but.
able to fish and
Well,
traffic control.
back to your
wildlife.
helping her.
Yes.
When Evan first went to vote, I tried to help him, and they almost like accosted me and like, tackled me. And the little old lady said she could help him, but I couldn't help him.
She is wrong.
And, yeah, I mean, she
Wrong.
said that straight up to me. And, because first off, I didn't really prep him and say much about it, but I just said, when we got there, I said, I think he's gonna need help. And they said, oh, okay, well, we can help him. And I said, well, I can help him. And they said, oh, no, you can't help him. And I was like, wait.
Did you tell him that he had a disability, or you didn't say that? Well, if you're an individual with a disability, and you, well, like when I go vote, a lot of times I'll have my, well, they're older now, they don't like to come and vote. They don't think that's fun anymore, but when they were little, I would drag the kids with me and go, come on, help me vote, let's go and, you know, look at this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
voting
always
stuff
took him in
together.
too, but he was just very nervous. You know, his first time, he was kind of freaked out and everything.
Well, I personally hate these machines, but,
Oh, yeah, the new ones down
In
there,
Fayette
dial
County.
in.
I
See,
hate
it was the clicker before.
so, if you're a person with a disability and you need assistance to vote, you get to decide who helps you. The only restrictions are you can't, if you are like in a union, your union boss cannot help you vote. And if, I'm not joking, it says that.
No one who has a vested interest in
And
the
your,
voting
and your
process.
boss, can your boss
Exactly.
come help you? You know, now your boss can tell you how to vote.
It actually, I can't, let me see if I can find it exactly where it says.
List of people who you can.
Yeah, there's, in one of the, in this, one of the handouts, it's, you're right, I think it's in here, it's got a very specific list of, who cannot help you. I know it's not in this one, sorry, it's in a different one. But it's a very specific list, and your union boss, and like Hazel said, someone who
The candidate.
who would be inclined to try and tell you what to do cannot help you vote. But if it's a family member or a friend or a caregiver or whomever, or a poll worker, but you get to decide who you want help from. Now, in Amelia's situation, because I didn't know, I just went up there and we had looked at, I do not like the flywheel voting machines that Fayette County has. Is everybody from Fayette County? No? What county are you from? I mean, do you have touch screens in your county, or what is your machines, are they like, you know? Oh, you people, somebody in this, you're old enough to vote.
Have you voted before? Have you voted before?
I haven't.
How
I
old are
am
you?
though. I'm 22. I will this year.
Have you voted?
In my house, I
Have
would
you
say you were
voted?
fired.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Well, we're looking for you on election day.
Now,
But we're glad you're here.
in some, yes, thanks for coming, now that registered. When, in the olden days, you know, we had the little metal machine and you'd go in and you'd pull the little lever down over the name of the person you wanted to vote for. Those don't exist anymore. And some places have touch screens, and some places, in the back of that News for You one, I think it had an example of different machines. And I laughed because like, well, the one from Fayette County is not in here on that back page. I wish we had touchscreens in Fayette County. That would like make sense to have touchscreens, but we don't. We have this silly flywheel, which is, okay, you have a column, well, like on the ballot. Do you have the ballot?
Yeah, right.
Like on the screen, I'm sorry, this is so tiny. You'll have a cursor, and then you have this flywheel, it's a circle with a dot in it for your fingertip. And as you turn the flywheel, it blop, 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 blops to these different boxes, and then it jumps to the top of the next column, blop, 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 blop. And when you get to the candidate for each race that you want, you're supposed to press enter. Well, what I've noticed just from my own voting on that particular software, that flywheel is super sensitive.
It is.
And it goes past the person you want to vote for, often. And then you're having to go, just touch it really lightly. And so a person with fine motor problems, I cannot believe that they bought that machine thinking that anybody who had motoric problems would be able to use it. So that's just my
That would
opinion.
be a good project for physical therapy students.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they could make it a lot less sensitive, like as you click it and it.
It is too
Yeah, it's
sensitive.
just as you turn it, it just flies through the thing.
Or
And-
and what kind of therapy can you use to prevent your hand
There
from
you
going
go.
too fast?
Well, it's the graded muscle movement, you know, you're using, because, okay, you're touching
Yeah,
and you're turning, and you have to do it just exactly teeny tiny bit right. So if it were a touch screen, all you'd have to do is reach and touch. So for a person with a physical disability, I was just like, these machines are awful. So Amelia has some motor issues. She can write and things like that, but she's more of a, I am a clumsy person. She is accurately described as a kind of clumsy person, I think, too, sometimes. So, I mean, in terms of, you know, if you're trying to do a fine motor activity, her hands might not cooperate with her.
I
So,
think Gavin said he hated those things too, but he
yeah,
doesn't.
so we hate them. So when Amelia went to vote, I was not sure that she would be able to get the machine to do what she wanted it to do successfully, and I wanted her to be able to vote for the people that she had wanted to vote for. And what we had done was we had discussed and written down in advance who she was going to vote for, so that when she got up there, she just had to match what she'd already made her decision instead of making her decision in the voting booth. And so I asked the people at the table, and they said, oh, yes, that she can, you know, if she needs assistance. I said she has a disability and blah, blah, blah. And if she needs assistance, they have a piece of paper that they have you fill out. She had to fill it out, and that said that she needed assistance. And then the question was, do you need it temporarily or do you need it all the time? And so she marked all the time, and they were very nice and very helpful. And that's why I'm standing next to her in the voting booth. And frankly, she did fine. But I was worried that she was going to have trouble with the machine. What's name?
You might get to this later, and if you are planning to just
Change the name.
just tell me so, and then wait till later. But I'm wondering, of course, when our kids were little, we took them in the voting booth with us, and that was all fine.
Mm-hmm.
But now that our children look more like adults, yours is an adult, would they allow another adult or maybe adult to go into the voting booth with you? Because
You know, there's no law that says you can't.
Yeah, because if they're not gonna vote and
But
they're
they
just
don't
all
like
looking
you having
over your
people look
shoulder.
over
Yeah,
your
but you-
shoulder.
yeah,
But
no,
whether
they
they
don't
like it or
nervous.
not, really
Because-
is not your problem.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, but
that's too bad.
As long as the
they don't know
person-
that that person isn't on that list of people who cannot.
It's not your union boss.
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, if
Well,
you
as
were
long
gonna
as the
try
person's
to.
not disrupting all the voters or
No,
making
if you were
remarks
gonna
or
try to
whatever.
swing an election,
I think-
you would try to get your employee or whoever
Right.
to let you go into the booth with them, so they, or whoever's getting
commit
paid
fraud,
for your
yeah.
vote,
Mhm.
to go in and
Yeah.
ascertain that you voted the way they wanted you to vote. I mean, I can see big voting fraud that could come from having another adult in there with you, and it never was a problem when our kids looked like cute
When
little
they were
kids.
little.
That we didn't have daycare for at that moment, you know.
Well, I think sometimes a good rule of thumb in that, of course, if you're going to your neighborhood voting place, those people, you probably see the same kind of
Yeah.
people every time you go to vote.
Yeah.
And when we go, I'll
So if
try to
they-
go when it's not as busy, and that way they're less freaked out at the poll workers,
And-
if
and
you're
you
trying to do
think that
something
if they
unusual.
believe that that person is your disabled child, or whoever that you say it is, the people who, they can let it go on.
I'm.
How do you avoid the busyness? How do you know what time
I
to
know,
go?
That's a tough one.
Oh,
That's tough.
first thing in the morning,
Yeah, 6 a.m. they
after
they
4
Oh my
walk.
o'clock.
No, midday,
12 to
the
2.
Middle of the day, if you're
This-
home,
this-
yeah, well, everybody's off work still.
I mean, it's just, there are some peak.
Because I've been
voting
there when
hours.
it's been really, really busy, and I've been there when it's been not busy at all.
Right, peak
So-
voting hours typically are when people are on their way to
Or
work,
before work.
lunchtime, and when work starts, school and work starts getting out. So sometimes people will take off early and try to go vote at 4:30. So then it gets busy, so I mean,
But on a presidential election, that doesn't matter, because it's a public holiday.
oh, so true, so, well.
So you go whenever you
It's,
can.
you know, most of your voting stations are probably pretty close to your house, or at least here in Lexington they are. And if you go and there are a lot of cars or a big long line, go home. Come back in 40 minutes. Or go sit in your car. Go sit out in your car for a few minutes. So, I would like to draw your attention to, if I can find my own paper so I can find what page this is on, sorry. In one of these documents, sorry, I'm not remembering which one it is. Oh, it's in the one that I said had 70-some pages. Can I swipe that back from you?
And you know, you
There's
can't-
one over
you can't
here.
vote before you're 18 in
Not
the
taking that
primary,
one.
if you're gonna be in position by the time the election. I
Yes,
found that.
Right, that's right.
he
Because I bet
yeah.
Steve was doing
He
something.
could have voted
was
in the
gonna-
primary because he was.
Steve and I have a running joke, so. Steve is probably doing our running joke, and I'm just gonna take it away from him. I'm sorry, I don't have multiple copies of this, but vote, it's your right. In the very back of this, which I think Melanie may have sent me this document, and sadly I did not. I think I got it yesterday or something. And I was already done with my printing. They have a chart in here. Here's the first page. It's on page 41 of this big 70-page document, but I only have 3 of, sorry. But it's state laws affecting the voting rights of people with mental disabilities, and it's in alphabetical order of all the states, okay? So go to the page that has Kentucky.
What is that third one?
This is our page. and,
They stopped before.
Oh, it was
Kentucky.
1973?
They ran out of paper.
And Kentucky. Kentucky's on page 49 of that if you are fighting over a copy of it. And it says, what our statute says is, idiots and insane persons shall not have the right to vote. And that's the citation.
So all those politicians should vote for themselves.
Right. But that's what our Constitution says in our state, and in order to change it, we would have to have a constitutional amendment.
Constitutional referendum, idiot.
Well, and that's the thing, that this
Yeah, I'm
particular
looking at
document
determine that.
says inside of it, is that idiots and insane persons is a very broad thing, and it's not easily defined, and that's why it's not really enforceable. And that's why you go before a judge as an individual person and say, so as a class, but, you know, that just goes to show how archaic the language is, and it really needs to be changed, and I'm for changing it.
So what about like, I guess people who are committed to a hospital or something, is that what they were?
You are not disqualified from voting simply because you are in a mental institution.
You're
They
only
cannot keep
disqualified
you.
if you're under the Constitution, like your voter rights were taken away because of a criminal act.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you sat, if a judge, if you
Or if you
were
lost
adjudicated
your
by a
rights,
judge
yeah.
and found that you were not competent to vote. So people who are in mental institutions and nursing homes have the right to vote. And that's one of those things that historically had been a problem because the people who ran those institutions and facilities were sometimes resistant to allowing people to register or to vote. And so that was what some of those court cases that over the years have been found that you don't know, you can't do that, you know.
When I showed that to Cindy Carney, was at the Kentucky Self Advocates for Freedom thing on Saturday, and she's with the League of Women Voters, and I showed her that email that you'd sent me about this, and she said that, I said, this would be something good to work with you all on to get changed. And she was going to look to their national organization, because she said, we've been trying to also get it so that people, like, that have a criminal, that are,
Felons.
you know, that's another group that they're advocating for. But she was surprised that the language was.
I'm not, sadly, I'm not.
So if you're a convicted felon, then you lose the right to vote forever?
In Kentucky,
Yeah.
unless you
Well, you have to.
request it to be reinstated.
Yeah, you have to appeal and go to the province and get reinstated.
That varies from state to state as well. It's all,
Yeah, the worst
State.
one is Florida, because they strike, one thing striking it permanently. And
So-
we really have to spend a lot of money to get them to change. There's a big debate going on.
now, I don't think I have this, if you, I'm sorry that I don't have 50 copies of this, but regarding guardianship in Kentucky, this says if the court finds that the person is in need of a guardian or conservatorship, then the court, this is how our statute reads, the court must specifically determine whether the person retains the right to vote. And that's a Kentucky Revised Statute 387, Section 580, what does those parentheses mean? Subsection 3C. Sorry, I don't know how to say it. And that award shall only, this is in the state of Kentucky, award shall only be deprived of the right to vote if the court separately and specifically makes a finding on that record. So, which is the same chapter 387.
Open the door, somebody's got to go.
So,
Thank you.
so that's, you know, you're not, there's no such thing as being automatically disqualified to vote because you have a disability in the state of
So,
Kentucky.
I was unclear when you were talking about the judge. Does the judge ask the person with the disability, do you want to vote, or do they ask the guardians? Are you planning on?
Well, you're all there.
Yes.
So the question is asked to everybody who's standing there.
Yes, does the person want to vote, or
Yeah.
is the voting right?
Yeah.
Now, if, the part where it says, individuals who have been declared this is what our statutes say, okay? Anyone, disqualified under the Constitution may not vote. That's the Kentucky Revised Statute 116.025 or whatever. But, there was oh my goodness, now, a 1973 Kentucky Attorney General's opinion that said that individuals who were declared incompetent solely for the purposes of appointing a committee to manage their welfare checks would not be disqualified from voting, so that they are qualified to vote. So, kind of like in 73, the Attorney General's opinion said, we don't care what the Constitution says because the statute actually says that, you know, you can't vote. But then they had the subsequent state, you know, statute that said, well, you have to go before a judge. That what?
Those opinions have been forced to vote.
But also those have been guided by the federal, I think, decisions too. The states probably, you know, even though we have archaic things in our Constitution, the federal law has, there've been several decisions regarding that and the Voting Rights Acts.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
Trump, federal, I think, Trump.
The state laws.
But they've gone in.
Thank you
and-
for your opinion, but I didn't know.
They went in and changed all the language that they took the term retarded out and put it, maybe you're gonna talk about that in a second.
No.
But if they changed that, would that cause the top thing to change?
I thought that there used to be definitions of idiot, imbecile, and something else based on IQ percentages.
There was, that's, they had the Kentucky Insane Asylum and
Mhm.
the Feeble-Minded Institute, you know, was Kentucky's, you know, if you look at historically, the Kentucky State Hospital and those places, those are what they were called. So, so they had definitions.
But what they,
There were different levels of
Yes.
intelligence. There was idiot, there
Codified.
was imbecile, and I forget, there was a third one.
Feeble-minded.
And I forget what that was.
it probably was what you're saying, feeble-minded. The thing that this particular document, the 78-page document says in here about that is that from state to state, that it varied widely as to how those words, idiot and insane person, were actually interpreted. And that's why as far as the law was concerned, that you can't really enforce that, is what they were saying. It's hard to enforce in that way. Now, the Kentucky Attorney General's opinion for this state also said that in 1976, that persons who were declared incompetent but not declared insane are entitled to register to vote if they're otherwise qualified. So, which would mean, you know, otherwise qualified, you're 18, you live in the state of Kentucky, and you are alive.
And you have to show a picture ID, right?
Let's talk about that. I don't know, that's not my next, actually, what's the next page?
No, you don't.
They used to ask for
No,
a
that's-
driver's license.
They ask
Registering to vote.
They ask for it, but they're not required to require it.
Registering to
They
vote.
can't stop you from voting if you don't have your ID.
Well, this is what I'm gonna talk about. That's in my power of my
Oh, I'm
resignation.
sorry.
And
In fact, the last time I voted, I ran, and I remembered to grab my, I was driving, and I did on my way, right? And I remembered to grab my license, and I said, hey, if I had not remembered to bring this, could I have voted? And he said, yes, because I know you.
Oh, okay.
And,
The lady knows me too.
But
I was like,
the
"Hey,
other
you
thing
do."
they said, if you have an envelope in your bag with your mailing address and your name on it,
That's
they can
fair.
also
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
That's
any-
constitutes ID.
anything, like any bill or
address to you what
anything?
you.
but it doesn't have to be a picture ID, I don't know,
Here, I stole yours, Mac.
at this time.
Wow.
Not in our state.
Not in
Some
our state.
states
Some
have
states
passed that
require-
law, but not in Kentucky at this
And
point.
one state, this voting cycle, is allowing the library cards, because in that state, they have picture ID, they have
That's
picture
fair.
library cards, and they're allowing those.
And that is,
You could use your things.
Your Sam's Club. So to register to vote, I put the, there's no picture on your Carter card. Register to vote, I put the information regarding where you register to vote for Fayette County. Now, if you don't, if you have not registered to vote by now, you will not be voting on November the 6th, because the deadline was October the 9th. And I was looking at that and I was like, we're stupid, we should have done this last month.
Yeah.
But whatever. But if you register now, you'll be ready to vote for the primary election, all of you who are not voters. So you can vote, you can register to vote online, those are the links, and, or you can print off a registration form, which is what I just handed around, and that is what we had Amelia do. We printed off the registration form. It does not ask for, can I borrow this from you? It doesn't ask for anything specific other than what's your name and your address and what gender are you and what party do you want to be affiliated with, and you mail it
And
in.
your social security number.
Well, yeah, but you mail it in, and then you're registered to vote. I don't think that they sent anything further after that, as I recall.
No,
I mean, we got
they
a,
put you on the list.
we got a, where we would vote.
Yeah, you got a card confirming your
Card,
registration
yeah.
in the mail. So, or you can go to these public places and agencies and register in person, but you do not have to, if you're registering by mail or online, you don't have to show ID. So you can go to the county clerk's office, you can go to any place that issues driver's licenses, all these other, food stamp offices and stuff like that, and the armed services places. Now, absentee voting, that's what we did with Amelia initially, and that's the place where you would go to get information in Fayette County about absentee voting requirements. But see right there, a person who due to age, disability, or illness will be unable to go to the polls on election day is qualified to be an absentee voter. So, there are all these reasons why, and frankly, they don't check. If I just decided I didn't want to go to the polls and said, I'm gonna be out of town that day, I'm pretty sure of it, they don't come to your house and see if you're
But you're not
home.
home.
So, but these are the reasons why you're supposed to, engage in absentee voting. They're,
And that's different than early voting, some states.
we do not have early voting in this state, which they're talking about some other states that have it. So this is a big, long list, and I don't, nobody, you can do that
Nobody's been
online.
waiting in line for 4 or 5 or 8 hours to vote in this state, that's
Oh.
They put it in Ohio, and those other states, because the lines were so long, it took forever.
Maybe it's because they don't have that special flywheel to vote with. That makes it so fun. So if you can switch to the next page for me, Hazel, please. Let's see, absentee ballot voting, I'm skipping over that. In Fayette County, though, I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna tell you this. Remember when I said to you as to why who needs assistance at the polls? Anybody who has a disability can get assistance voting at the polls? Look what's on the Fayette County website. This is verbatim what's on their website. I copied and pasted it.
Except their employer, agent of their employer.
But it says voters, it says the following
So she shouldn't have tackled
people.
me and told me I couldn't help them.
Right, but the following people may receive assistance at the polls. Voters who cannot operate the machine due to a physical disability, blind or visually impaired, and people unable to read English. I don't know why that question mark is on there. I'm sorry. To read English? I think that I made a typographical error there on the last word.
Prejudice.
But,
It doesn't say anything about cognitive, but
it doesn't.
what is the law?
The law is if you have a
If you ask for
disability and
assistance.
you need assistance, you
You
get
can,
it.
and you get the person your choice.
And you choose
Right.
to help you. They do not get to choose.
And the person has to
unless
fill
they're-
out something, right?
There's
You
a
have to
piece
fill
of
out a form
paper.
to add, to say, is it a temporary help or
That
do
you
you
need
need it
help.
forever?
There's a form that at the
So
poll.
you just ask the word.
Right, you go up and say, well, I went up with Amelia and said, because you weren't here at that point, but I just said, I'm not sure might need some help with this machine, she's never done this before, she has a disability, and they were like, oh yeah, we have to fill out this paper.
Okay.
And they were very kind about it and cooperative, and then we filled it out, and then there's an option, do you need help just this one time, or do you need help all the time? And so we marked all the time, and now I'm good to go, not have to worry
And
about,
then you could go back and the thing that tells you all about.
no, the ballot.
I think that's really important to do ahead of time.
But I just thought, you know, these three things that they have listed on our Fayette County Clerk's website is not really completely accurate in terms of the following people may receive assistance at the polls. Any person who has a disability would need
It
assistance at
just
the
says
polls.
physical disability in this case.
I mean, I guess if you think it's a brain-based disorder of
Yeah,
autism, it's a physical
Yeah.
disability, but still. But I'm sure that they were thinking people with, you know, physical impairment, you know, and like you said, wheelchair or motor problems or whatever, so.
Or couldn't see.
It's still true.
Right, well, yeah, but that would vary, I think, because Autism Spectrum is so wide, you would have some kids who, like your son, who they would go, he has a disability, what are you talking about? Which I have to apologize to Evan, because he tried to talk to me about his new car,
Plus,
and I
I
was
didn't
busy.
want to be talking to the neighbors, that's none of their business. I just say, don't be getting up in my business, you know?
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's why I just said, well, I just think he'll need some help because he's never really voted before. And I thought I could dial in behind him or I
Or
could.
stand by
And when
him.
I went over there, they were like, no. Like I might influence it. I want to say, honey, I've been influencing for
20 years.
We got the channel on the TV we want to listen to. So he knew who he wanted to vote for, but it was just,
So earlier we were talking about, and you were saying who can't help you. These are the people who cannot help you. Your employer, the agent of your employer, your union head, or the agent of the union. Those are the people who cannot help a person with a disability vote, which I'm sure has to do with voter fraud concerns, like what you were saying. Now, oopsie, I've gone too far. ID cards. This is one, in potential, as we talked about in the beginning, impediment to voting for people with who might have a disability. If you don't drive a car, you don't have a driver's license. And so I made a point when Amelia was 18, I thought, you know what, this child, she needs an ID card. And so we went down to the driver's license place and got her an ID card. And you have to take, ID to prove who you are, like your birth certificate, your social security card, and then the proof of residency, which is, like Hazel was saying, a bill with your name and your address where you live on it.
Does she get those?
Well, she gets stuff from the school system with her name on it. She gets stuff from Social Security, stuff like that. So she did have some
what's on the
stuff.
ID card? Just the address and the picture, and they don't put your social security number?
No, it's like an ID number, just like
Oh,
a driver's
yes. Oh, I
license
see.
number. And
They
it
just
says
make it-
non-driver's license or something like that. I forget what it says on it, but.
It says Kentucky State ID, and then it says not a driver's license or something like
Right,
that.
okay.
And then the number on it looks exactly like a driver's license number.
Right. Because I'm sure it's the same computer system that you go into.
I've seen several of them.
And they, they put your, like your date of birth and all that kind of stuff that you would, kind of information you have on your driver's license is on that.
So that was $12 and it's
Right.
covered for you.
In this state, that's how much it costs, but I think, and that has been a concern in some of these other states that are now requiring a photo ID is, okay, first of all, you have to go downtown to the office downtown here. You can't go to just any branch to get your ID initially. First time you have to go downtown. And so transportation to the place to get your photo ID could be a problem for some people.
Hardship.
And cause them a difficulty and make it harder for them to vote and like we said, in this state, you need to have a bit of information that shows you are, you know, that you live at that address when you go vote, like Hazel said, you can take a piece of mail. But in some states now where they're requiring a photo ID to vote, then if you're, you know, you have to have the $12, okay? If you don't work and you're collecting Social Security, $12, that's a lot of money when you make $674 or $698 or whatever it is a month, Social Security check. And then if you don't have transportation to go down there, if you don't know, you know, if you don't have your birth certificate, then you have to pay to get a copy of that.
And they don't know where it is.
Yes. And
If
so,
you don't have your social security card, because we had to do this, we had to go to the social security office, get a temporary thing, take it back to the driver's license office with his birth certificate. And so, yeah. We did it. And guess what day we did it? October 9th. Because we got his ID, we got his driver's ID and both registered to vote on the last possible day.
yeah, that's excellent.
But we did it.
But the thing, so that I can see where that could be like what you just
A
said.
barrier.
A barrier
Yeah.
for somebody
Well,
who
I mean,
doesn't
if
have
you
somebody
don't
to
have a
drive you
car,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Drive you all the
And
places
it's all
you
the way
need to go.
across on the other side of town.
Oh, that Social Security office is far away from where we live. So, well, it's on the way from, out by the interstate. Okay, so that's like in general, oh, that doesn't look right at all. So that jumped.
Yeah.
And how to get an ID card in Fayette County, you go downtown to the circuit clerk's office, and that's on Main Street, and it's at the corner of Martin Luther King Boulevard. And then that's the link, if you live in another county, that you can click on that link and it'll tell you where there's a list of the counties. And then look at these hours too, 8 to 6 and 8, I mean, I don't know, it's not the
There's that one
lengthiest
on
hours.
Regency, or on Regency Road too.
But
I
you
don't
have
think
to
you
use the main one the first time you do it.
That's my understanding.
No.
A lot of people are working those hours.
They did? You did?
Agency Road, one,
I thought I took Rachel downtown. I think they
Is
told me,
that,
I went
was
to
that
the
the very
Regency
first time
Road.
you did a car?
Yeah.
ID?
Because then when I went to the Regency Road one, because Rachel.
Like to get your driver's license, you probably have to go downtown and get it.
No,
No, I
you
take
can
Rachel
get your
downtown.
driver's
No,
license.
but I
at
mean
the
the first
Regency
time.
Road one.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
I'm
the
wrong.
first time, yeah, you had to
Maybe I
go.
could-
Yeah, we
I
gotta
don't
take the
remember.
test.
In any
Yeah,
event,
issues.
you have to know where to go, you have to be able to get there, you have to have the money to pay for it, and you have to have the right papers in
You
your
have to have your
pocket.
paperwork.
Yes. And then you're gonna have to, like
So
with
it could be like
Amelia,
3 or 4 steps before you get it done.
when Amelia got there too, she has large handwriting. And so they give you the teeniest box. I think it's like that big to write your signature in. Oh my goodness, Amelia's signature is usually like this long when we're saying to her, write small. So they actually, she blew this signing her signature the first time she got outside the box. They don't want you to get outside their box. And so the lady said, well, let's have her try that again. So I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, what do I have next? Oh, that's the end of my PowerPoint. Oh, now, next PowerPoint, on the next flash drive. I want to show you how we made our decisions to vote.
How many flash drives do you have?
Okay, yes, thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry?
I said, how many flash drives do you have?
I don't know where anything is most of the time.
Awesome.
She has like all her keychain, a bunch of
Are you gonna show us photographs of Fox News and MSNBC?
Now, okay, when we open this, Hazel, here's my disclaimer, okay? Here's a disclaimer. I'm a registered Democrat. And I used to be an independent voter, but then I changed to registered Democrat because in this state, if you're an independent voter,
You can't vote.
other people decide the governor for you.
Yeah, you can't vote the primary.
Right. Anyway, so, when I made, let's see, I've gotta look at it, Hazel, open up the voting folder. And then let's open up, well, first of all, political parties, we can open up, and I'll show you that real quick, that's just a document. You know, I had to explain to Amelia, you know, like, what is a political party? When you decide, when you're registering to vote, they ask you to choose a political party. So I made her a short social story about, well, what is a political party? I'm sorry, it's hard to read.
I'm trying to shrink it.
But it's a pretty simple, you know, and then I said, these are who we belong to, this is what we like, you know. Sorry, you know, Mom and Dad do not like the Republican Party. Well,
You were influencing her.
no, when you're, well, you know
Well, that's
what?
what-
You would do that with
When
any
they're-
kid.
When they're in your house,
You
you've
gotta
been
indoctrinate
talking
them.
about stuff.
Any children, regardless of whether they have a disability, you're the parent, you're gonna say to, I'm sure you said it to Carrie, didn't you, probably? You'll say, oh, that person, blah, 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 blah.
I won't tell you what I told Jake about Bush.
Oh.
So we
So,
try that, even with Paul.
but,
I said,
And
well,
they
who
see,
you
and they
voting for?
see your
Maybe I'll
reaction,
close
they
this
see
so
your
you'll see.
reaction on election day, so they know.
But my bottom line was, I wanted to make sure that Amelia understood, because when young people make decisions about voting, you are influenced by the people around you. You do go, I talk to my dad and my mother, they don't vote the same, you know. And my husband, his mom and dad, they don't vote, they're not in the same political party and they don't vote for the same people. Even though
To your mom and dad to help them out?
my parents are divorced, so.
There it is, they're not the same party, that's the problem.
Wade's parents say to each other that they just cancel each other's vote out, and I guess that's how they've stayed married all these years and not belonging to the same political party. Because I was like, how can you be married to someone who's not in the same political party that you are?
Sarah
But
is.
Sarah is. Oh my gosh, you gotta
My
kick him out. Kick him to the curb. In any event, I'll close that because that's just my bias is all over the place. But see, look, I wanted to see it. Stop, let's
Look at
stop
how
there.
many
Stop,
more
please, that's
Democratic
West I'm putting it out there. You all don't make fun of
We do
me.
not like Grandma Wheeler.
But in our family, those are the people who are Democrats and those are the people who are Republicans, and that's the facts, boys, you know? And so, when Amelia registered to vote, I had to say, who do you want to, which political party? And she chose. I did not tell her which political party.
Megan already
Do
told her.
I alone, or do I want to have the comfort?
I wanna be like mom and dad, or maybe they'll throw me out of the house.
I'm not sure it's safe.
Pressure.
What's your safe answer?
Parental
I did
pressure.
not write in there, if you know what's good for you.
This choice means life, this, yeah, which do you want?
Well, you know, frankly, some of the websites that are out
Let's
there
decide
about
before I
voting.
feed you dinner.
Well, but some of the websites that are out there for Democrats, Republicans, Tea parties, whatever, are very,
Strident.
yes, very strident. So it's really, you know, hard. Like I think somebody, I don't know, what is the one that, moveon.org or something, you know, moveon.org is gonna be very different than, I don't know another one for the Republicans, sorry.
Libertarian.
Or the Tea Party's website, I don't know what their website is, but you know, if you go to moveon.org, you know you're gonna get a certain kind of political
Lens,
slant,
yeah.
yes. And so I didn't actually have Amelia go there. But here.
Okay, which one do you
I'm
want now?
thinking, it's your right, survey, helping your loved one, news, well, political candidates for, shoot,
You got 2010,
2010, I think that's the presidential one. Go down where it's, oh, thank you, just open the other one, oh well. That's voting for Congress, but this will give you an idea. So, this was Andy Barr, which I'll be able to reuse this year. To update it a little bit, but I won't have to change it drastically.
Oh,
So,
you did, oh, neat.
So-
Well, that's what Wendy gave me when we first started doing this,
Uh-oh.
that I helped Val to figure out. So that's what I do for Val, put the name in there and put all the information.
I think
And
Did
then
you
he
go, did you
chooses.
go to their website?
I went to each candidate's website, and I took the information off of each candidate's website on the topics. And so I color-coded this because Amelia attends better when things are color-coded. And this is, this is just a web that I made with, in the PowerPoint. This is nothing that you'd have to
Yeah,
buy.
it's just,
That's
no.
pretty cool.
That's
Um,
awesome.
And so, he's an attorney, you know, it has, I'm sorry, the color doesn't show up as well. Or maybe if we, can we turn on these lights?
Yeah, turn on the ones in the corner.
The
there,
flip,
you'll
that
see
light
them.
switch behind you.
That one's probably-
Is it behind the bookcase?
Yeah, it's right there.
It'll help you see the color better.
Yeah, much better, much better.
So, for example, Andy Barr is an attorney, he is married, and like I said, if I have any slant in here, here's what happened. I did the bigger races first, like the president and the congressional races, and then when it got down to the other ones, like the mayoral races, I was running out of time and getting tired, and like the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. And so it was harder for me to be vigilant, to control my my slant, so,
You're right.
yeah, well, no.
Well, I
was
didn't try to do it all at once, because I just
Okay.
don't have that much time in one day.
Oh, no.
So I did it like over
The brand.
3 or 4 weeks.
Amelia would not pay attention if I tried to make her make voting decisions all, you know, if I said, let's figure out who you're gonna vote for. We would do one race, and then the next day we would talk about another race. So she would never sit still for 6 races all in the same day. She would be saying, I'm done, you know. Which I guess I probably didn't say to you, I'm sorry, that Amelia, does not, her verbal speech is not very good. She tends to speak in 2 to 3 word utterances, but her reading is a strength, and her visual skills are a strength for her. And she can communicate with writing more effectively than with verbal output. However, she tends to just say the main gist of what she wants to tell you and leave important things like verbs out. You know, she'll say, so I'm done. But, so I went to his website, took this information off of his website, put it in the bubbles, you know, this is what he thinks, this is what he wants, you know, and I pared down the language because Amelia, although she can read words, her fluency understanding is more at 7th or 8th grade reading level. Her,
Once when he was stopped by the police, he lied.
He did.
Well, that's what he
It's a big.
And gave
there were a
a
lot of-
fake
There
name.
were a lot of ads about
that's the
it.
truth. It's the truth.
That's why I'm laughing.
Well-
Somebody put it on one of the political ads the other day that was on the television. I
That's the-
thought that was
I heard them
hilarious.
talking about that, but
Stupid
I didn't
things
know
you
what
do
the
when you're
crime
19.
was.
That's what, he should put that on his website.
The other day, I
Something
think
stupid
that
I
one's
did when I
on
was
every
Or you could say
day,
Andy Barr
about
thinks
50 times a
quickly on
day.
his feet.
I'm telling the truth. So I tried to simplify the Amelia's comprehension of reading material is better at a 2nd or 3rd grade reading level. So I tried to pare down the vocabulary and the information to make it more direct information and simpler vocabulary words. So that, you know, and frankly, I mean, if you tried to vote based on what they have on the TV ads, you know, you would, look, oh, shoot, I should take this off. I work for a TV station. You're putting me on the webcam, I haven't. So,
She resents her
I
position.
know.
That's it. You have to clean that out, Joe. You have to edit
He's gonna
it.
be running for office in 10 years.
yeah, I need you to pixelate that. But,
That's gonna come out of.
you know, so that pays a lot of my paycheck is advertising on television is a huge, you know, thing that political people do. But frankly, most of the stuff that's on television doesn't really help you make a decision. It's just annoying. Well, it is annoying. I get tired of it. So anyway, so let's go to the next page so we can see what I say about, what's his face, Chandler. So, you know, he's married, he's the congressman now, he used to be the attorney general, you know, here are some things he did. He voted for the tax cut, the Lexington Herald. I tried to find out who the paper was endorsing and, you know, if they were endorsed by the paper, like the Herald in this region, like the Herald Leader or the Courier Journal or something. I tried to put that in there, because frankly, as a voter, I read those endorsements. I may not always agree with them, but I'm curious to, you know, they give their reasons why in the paper. Anyway, so, that's just, I think the government should help people, and we'll try not to look at any more. We're gonna talk about Republicans. Yeah,
No,
so.
I'm probably a little worse than you, because what I did with the description is personalized it to, here's the benefit you will get from this law.
Oh, see, I was trying to let Amelia
So
really make her own decision, Hazel.
Who's gonna be better for you personally?
But, you know,
like
Val is very self-centered, and you have to acknowledge that this is his personality. So if he wants to know, why do I care? What's it got to do with me? So you tell him that. He's not very abstracted. He wants concrete, focused information, so.
Most people probably vote that way on
Yeah.
what they think is gonna be a benefit to
To
them.
help them, yeah. Well, and that's the thing with Amelia, you know, we do talk about that sometimes, which usually when I say I'm talking to Amelia, if I'm trying to impart any important information to her, I'm writing it down, and then reading it with her. But you know, sometimes I'll tell her, you are a person, you know, who has a disability. Your disability is autism. You know, a lot of times I'll start those stories the same way every time. You know, your disability is autism. Your autism makes it difficult for you to talk to other people, you know, those kinds of things. Your autism makes it difficult for you to use both your hands to button your buttons or something. And I might say, because you are a person with a disability, you receive a Social Security check or something of that nature, and then you could go into your issue. This person thinks that too many people have Social Security checks, or, you know, this person is going to, you know, like she gets the Michelle P. waiver, which is where she is right now, out with her community support person. You know, if they're gonna cut, she needs to have it explained. Michelle P. waiver is a Medicaid waiver. If the politicians are saying that they want to cut money to Medicaid, they might, you know, that might make you not get Michelle P. waiver or not as much help. You know, and I don't say in there, you won't get 40 hours of assistance, Amelia. I would say, you wouldn't get as much help. That might mean that Trina might not be able to take you out every single day. It was her worker, who, she loves Trina way more than me. You know, I mean, it's like, Trina takes her away. Trina takes me away. So, what's the next page on this one? And so then I did a page, a summary with some pictures of them, and let's not read this though, because it's a lot of it's the same as the other stuff, a lot of it, repetition of the same information. And then,
hey, that's not fair. He's got a cute wife in his picture and the other one didn't have any.
well, that would be,
influence.
I looked for family photos, and if they didn't have it on their website, that's their foolishness.
Is
So.
Jen Chandler maybe ashamed of his wife?
Yes. Maybe his wife says she is. So then here's what we did. Okay, Amelia likes pink. So, and actually no, her new favorite color is blue, but at that point, pink and purple were preferred colors. So I tried to compare them, and I took the big issues and put them on the left, and then I put the smiley faces next to the things, you know, that the different candidate, you know, that this is the column or whatever. Because you do make that kind of a decision. Well, this guy, I don't like this guy, and I don't like that guy. Which one do I dislike the least? So anyway, we can change the page, Hazel. And then, who will other people vote for?
You went tongue there. I mean, not a single one for Andy Byer.
I asked other people, you know, I was like,
Did you use white
call
smiley faces for the ones that were voting for Andy?
You know, this is probably it. I didn't get it. I may not have gotten it finished or something, you know. Or this may have been like a draft version that I found when I was looking for it on the computer. Because, see, obviously, Grandma.
But you see, yeah,
Mullins,
Grandma Mullins, but you don't have
maybe it's
anything.
jumped off the page. Miss Jane didn't answer my question, I think.
If you don't like Ben Chandler, you shouldn't vote, is what you're saying.
No, but the point is that Amelia, you know, I was looking for ways to help her understand what other people think and making it visual. And not just so I can have my way, but to make it visual so that she should understand it. And
that's a long way to pay for votes.
It's a lot of work, I gotta tell you what.
Just mark it at home, take this in there and push those buttons, girlfriend.
Lord. So she did not vote for every race. She voted for the biggies. And can you go on the internet?
No, it didn't, couldn't get it.
Well, okay, food.
What do you need the internet for?
Well, Amelia's, oh yeah. Todd, can you hold your phone up?
Yeah.
So everybody can look at it. So Amelia did her voting, and like I said, I'm telling you as the mother, this was a lot of work. This took me a lot of time. And so I will not be doing every race because I would never get to go to sleep ever again. But I think you could use it, I mean, obviously color coding is for Amelia, but you could use it for any of your children if you wanted to talk to them about, you know, what do you think about this particular person? Do you think he's a fool? Do you think he's great? But, so Amelia got an opportunity, well, pictures, if I have pictures, voting pictures on there on that flash drive, I might have pictures on this flash drive.
Can we
Autism Speak.
get these
For
off
the
the
Yeah.
internet?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes.
saying. I
For
think
our
that's really
precinct, for our
important.
own
Yes,
precinct.
you
Yeah.
do,
Go to
yes.
the county clerk.
You go to the clerks and then you type in your name,
Oh,
your
you said go
social.
to county clerk's, I was like,
No, website.
You type in your name, your social security number, and your zip code. And
I
it'll
don't
give
see
you
any
the ballot.
picture files,
you
Wendy.
gotta put
Oh,
your social
phooey,
security
it's in
number
there, hang on a second. Can you click
I
on
would think
picture?
the zip
Oh,
code
this
would
is
be
your-
important
Oh.
because the neighborhoods are all different.
Okay, they're
But
they're
it's
on
like
there.
it-
Zip code is for.
I think they're on there.
Although, that's broken
It's
up.
somewhere.
Because it's got a
It's in
little different
different-
little
How do I get
icon.
to the, is this US?
Yeah, that's your,
My pictures.
We started.
oh, you got a picture file in there, I should have gone that.
That's okay, let's see, iPod pictures, including voting, those are Amelia's pictures of voting, let's see, which ones are these? Oh, shoot, Mel, I don't have the ones for, open up. Okay, these are just the pictures of Amelia voting that we, that I showed you all. But, and I took these pictures, okay, I took these pictures because Amelia doesn't speak very well, then when you present her with a visual, she does a better job of describing and talking about what occurred. So I had taken these pictures so she could use them to write sentences, like in a daily journal.
The day I voted.
About what she did, yes. So recently, I'm so sorry, I don't know where those pictures, I mean, I don't have access to the internet because they're in my email and everybody else's email, but Melanie got contacted by a group called Autism Votes, which is an advocacy arm from Autism Speaks, a national advocacy group. And you can change that picture if you want.
Actually,
So,
Sierra got contacted.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, I didn't get contacted. Anyway, just go to the next picture, Hazel, just on the, down here, right here.
Oh, okay.
It should take you to the next picture of Amelia, which is what I circulated, but, so Melanie, whoever got contacted first, ultimately Melanie was contacted, and when the debate, vice presidential debate was going on in Danville, then, she, had a,
Speaking time.
she was requested to speak on the
Presidential.
topic in the free speech area on the topic of autism and
Why it matters.
like from a political perspective. And so, Mel asked me to go with her, and I said, ooh, I want to take Amelia. And so Amelia went, and we took a bunch of pictures, which are in the Ethernet, in the world, in the air. And the people from Autism Votes, after it was over, they wanted pictures. Well, I had emailed these pictures to Melanie. Why did I email them to you? I don't remember. But I had sent them to myself, and I just CC'd her on it. And so she had them, so she forwarded these pictures to the people at Autism Votes. Well, then they said, hey, we'd like to put these on our blog. Can we put these pictures on the blog? Could Amelia write some sentences to go, to write a little entry to go along with these pictures? So I did. I had her sit down and write sentences about it, and
You
then,
didn't put this on your, you didn't make a copy
Hey,
in
so I
your
got
jump
them.
drive?
no.
She sent it to us on email.
Yeah, I got them myself.
How come you don't get on your email?
And you can go to Autism Speaks website.
Yeah, it's on my
there.
email.
Sorry, I
can't get to my
apologize.
email.
I think that was.
I'm sorry.
I think that was great.
So Autism Speaks has a blog about voting and autism and things like that, and so they have a blog area, and so Amelia has her stuff, her pictures and her sentences about voting posted. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever for Amelia.
It
I was
is.
just like, yay, Amelia. Then, and to me, my big thing about her is giving her, despite her difficulties, giving her the best opportunity to have as typical a life as she can and to assert herself and to be in charge of herself as much as she can, to support her to be an adult, and so, which I know, we all try that, and, it's a, just wait till you have to make a voting guide. You're gonna be so mad. They're gonna let me do the work and then circulate it. So you'll have to make your own if you wanna make pro-Republican ones or something. Wait a minute, who's a Republican? One of you is, or an independent.
We'll let you decide.
Yes, I don't know. So in any event, for me, I thought that was very cool for Amelia, and I thought that was really great for Autism Speaks, to be taking people with developmental disabilities who are, doing adult things and despite their disability and
Citizenship.
and citizens, yes, being a citizen and promoting that, because they have other people, not just Amelia, as well, talking about voting and, you know, advocacy and stuff like that. So I was excited about that for Amelia. And I think though she's like a lot of young people, if I said to her, Amelia, do you want to vote or do you want to go to the movies? She might say she wants to go to the movies.
A lot of people ready to go to the movies.
So, you know, but anyway, so that's all. Did you
Can
all
we
have
do
any other
both?
questions on it? Sorry, so if you go to Autism's, what is the web link? I can't remember. It's Autism Speaks Blogspot or something.
Yeah, or it's not Autism Votes?
Well, they have a link, if you go to Autism Votes, there is a link to their blog, but the initial link that the fellow sent me, which in the email was Autism Speaks, yeah.
Probably just do that in the
And then,
comments, but.
and I think it was Blogspot is what it looks like, /Blogspot. Are you looking it up, Joe?
Yes.
Sorry. Are you looking,
Yeah, I am.
do you, sorry. Well, she posted the link for, on the ASBG, Sarah did. She put it out there with, after asking permission, if that was okay to post it.
You don't put that on Facebook?
Amelia did put that on Facebook. Amelia has a Facebook
Wow.
page.
She does.
Yeah, Amelia has a Facebook page, and Amelia has Text Plus. Amelia, I'm gonna do an advertisement here for iPad. So Amelia has had
Really?
some staffing issues where she was without staff. You know, it was transitions between community support staff was just really rough. And so she had some months in the summer where she didn't really have people to take her out, and so then she didn't spend as much money as she normally would of her Social Security check, which she spends a lot eating lunch and going to the grocery and going to movies. That's what she likes to spend her money on. And bowling.
And shopping.
She doesn't, oh, she hates shopping. I got her to buy a pair of shoes and blue jeans without fighting me though. I mean, like, it was not,
Does she do okay in the movie theater? Is it too loud or is she okay with it?
she doesn't have a problem with the noise. Other people have a problem with her noise. Because she does not whisper. She talks at her normal.
Like the regular voice.
Well, and then you're going, whisper, whisper, and then she'll whisper for 1 second, and then it's right back to the regular volume. Like, when she's, please, just keep whispering. You know, so we spend a lot of time going, you can't talk, you're in the movie. But also when you go to the dollar movies, and there are hardly any people there, people are less, what's the word? Yeah, annoyed by your bad behavior. But also you have to know about her too. If you take her to a movie with too much dialogue, where there's just a bunch of yapping, oh my goodness gracious.
Forget it.
Yeah,
It's gotta
she's,
be action.
yeah, and music.
3 lines and
And
then the
music.
rocket comes out or something.
Because she's not interested in these dramas with a lot of talking. She will talk to herself and start singing and stuff like that. But anyway, we're not going to this. Who was asking you, Rand? I digressed. You got me distracted. What was I saying?
Oh, she had money because she wasn't.
Okay, she had too much money. This is my iPad advertisement. She had too much money in her checking account. And because she hadn't been spending it, because she hadn't been getting to go out and live her life as much. Because I am her mother, but I can't drive her around and take her everywhere. I mean, I have 2 other children and other responsibilities. And so, one day I said, Amelia, you have a lot, you know, I looked at, we were checking, because, you know, looking at her total in her checking account, and I said, you have a lot of money in your checking account. Would you like to go buy an iPad? Yes. So, we went to the Apple store and bought an iPad. It has been the best investment ever. Best investment ever. She loves her iPad. We have speech to text. I don't hear my testimonial. Speech to text. We have at this point a very simplistic speech to text software on there for her, but she likes it. She understands that, you know, that this will get, you know, I should use this, that this helps me and all that. And she will independently go. She'll go to. It's called Speak It is the program. And so sometimes she'll go, speak it, speak it, speak it. And I was like, well, open it if you want to use it, you know. Like, you know, open it.
Like, does she talk and then types it, or does she type?
She types it and then you
itself?
press speak it and it says what she types. And we have, you can save messages in it that you've pre-typed. And it's got limitations because it doesn't have any folders. It doesn't have it's a simplistic one. It didn't cost a lot of money. So I wish it had places where I could put restaurants, you know, movies, bowling.
But there are other programs you can do that.
We're gonna buy
They're
one.
great little apps that
We just
always
haven't.
got a set of stuff on there that helps
Does
in the
Walmart
bills.
have it?
Mhm. help them to build sentences.
Yeah.
And organize a whole conversation about a sport or an activity, because he writes a
Send me the
blog
link for
every
that.
day, so I gotta hunt it.
So Amelia,
Yeah.
so she's got a bunch of stuff on that iPad already, but the Speak It is the main one, and we're eventually gonna buy a piece of software, you know, those cost about $200, and so we don't wanna experiment, we wanna buy the right one. And Debbie Sharon, actually of the Bluegrass Technology Center, which is on Southland Drive, if you've never been there, she just told me to come bring Amelia and bring the iPad, and that we could do some, you know, come visit her before we make our purchase, is what she said.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
nice.
and so she's gonna help us with our decision-making,
Yes.
so we could try some things out. And she,
Any free ones?
but she, free, no, there's no free. But that iPad has been the best investment because it has improved her independence. What is the website?
It's autismspeaks.org/blog.
Blog, okay, I was thinking Blogspot, okay. And then there's a link, and it was posted a couple days ago, I think.
On the 26th, I think. October 26th.
So, because I think they post things on that blog every single day. And then, but anyway, but there are so many things on the iPad, and that she likes it, and Text Plus is one of the things that she got on there. It's a free app where you can text people using your iPad.
Unfortunately, it also has Angry Birds.
Well, we have defined the iPad, and I had to tell the other children in the household who wanted to play on the iPad. I said, no. I said, this is not a toy. This is a tool. We do not have any games on that iPad. It is a tool.
Not even Fruit Ninja?
No, we don't have games. We have vocabulary flashcards.
Because you didn't want them to play on, or you didn't want the memory space to be used up by games?
I didn't want
Them
the browsing history to be going to DeviantArt and whatever else crazy websites that people go to. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
You can fix it so that you can't get on Safari, you can't get on the Apple Store. You just set up your restrictions
Well, see, I want
and
Amelia
it's
to
password
be able
protected.
to do it though. Oh, you
Teach
said the
her
password
the-
for her.
Teach her the password and nobody
I
else.
guess I did.
Somebody could use it, yeah, password protected, there you go.
And then she can fix it so that she can turn those things back on, but you can turn off YouTube. I do all of this for my 5-year-old because we first bought him an iPod because I saw how this technology worked
Yeah,
and
we
I
had
loved
iPod
it.
first as well.
And then we bought him an iPad and I set all of those restrictions up again so that he can't accidentally buy something, because a lot of times they have you set that up with a credit card,
Right.
which is its
right.
downfall. But I set it up with my plasma donation card.
We use iTunes cards or whatever
Yeah.
for their purchases usually.
Well, I'm afraid for some kids that doesn't work. You put a password on there and somehow or the other Bob figures out how to get it off of there.
Oh.
He's a little too smart with computers.
Well, Amelia-
So doesn't help us any.
She,
He can figure out a random number, 4 digits.
No, I think he watches somebody do it, or he just
He's watching
figures
your
out when to
keystrokes.
be sneaky and gets it
Oh,
off.
you just don't let them see you putting the
that's how
passcode
my
in.
14-year-old knows to log in for my desktop on,
Yeah,
the
and
adult
he hears
desktop on our
stuff, he
computer,
listens
family
when you're
computer.
talking, and his hearing is really good, so you don't even know he's around or hearing. He just figures it out.
So, but that's,
I guess
so
it's gonna be a secret
Amelia's,
agent.
but that has been the best thing, that iPad. And it helps people understand her, because sometimes she doesn't pronounce things clearly, she mumbles, and people in this public will go, what do you want to eat? Just, anyway. Does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heard today, and I'm just curious if anybody knows this, but I heard today that P&A has put out a brochure about voting.
Oh, I would be surprised, because
I tried to find it,
Can you
Mary Beth
They
Bell was
talk on
telling me
that topic?
They did a couple years ago. You're right, they did.
And I kind of tried to do a search for it, but I couldn't find anything.
I thought you sent me a link for something about that. You sent me a link about research.
The P&A's did a whole thing on restraint and seclusion. That's their latest big thing, but a long time ago, they put something out on voting. It's probably on their website, so yeah, I can try to find it if you can send it out.
Oh, I was just just wondering, I thought it might be a good follow-on to this,
Yeah,
but.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you find it, you can just send it to the listserv.
Wendy,
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
could, you could have a whole tutorial thing.
This is awesome.
If you could have your little bubbles and they could be blankets.
That's
and fill 'em in.
voter,
I love
the
this.
thing, the-
Different people. No, I mean, for each year, you could fill in what you want or.
What I want Amelia
That
to
could be a
say.
class, you know?
Oh, Lord. I would like to make all the people come and listen to what I think, and they should all do what I say. This is what my husband says about me. You like it when people do what you say. I said, absolutely I do. Makes the family run a lot easier if everybody does what I want. Isn't that right? Every
knows best.
mother's dream. Every
Mom
mother's
ain't
dream.
happy, nobody's happy.
Do what now?
If mom ain't happy, nobody's happy.
Something like that. I mean, what, just anyway. Don't argue with me. Some days I just say, I'm just like, don't you say that to your
No.
spouse sometimes?
No.
Don't argue with me.
No, I don't say that actually. I say I'm not having this conversation.
Oh,
I like that.
That was the same words.
You're not having this conversation.
I just wondered if
You can have it with yourself.
Even Val, I tell him over and over again, I'm not having this conversation with
I'm
you.
just asking, do you want that?
I like that.
About Alyssa or Joe?
No, that's fine.
That keeps you from getting
No, but
sucked
my
into the
question
fight,
is,
doesn't it? I'm not
that
having this
that
conversation.
you said it was gonna,
Well, Joe had, last time, what was the topic last time?
The
Joe, is there
program,
time
if
for
you
you to
could-
talk about the
I'm
form,
sorry,
or do
Joe.
you want to talk about the form? Is there not enough time?
I could, except for I can't get on the internet.
Oh,
So,
Well, I will make sure to get the password
okay.
for the next one.
Password? Get on this list.
About that, I was going to try this month to put, I'm gonna stop